Amigos, Kash, President and CEO of Kash International Luxury Real Estate. Hey guys, how are you doing out there today? I'm coming to you from my office here in Santo Domingo, and I have Vladimir Alonzo from Guzman y Ariza, Senior Counsel specializing in real estate and contract law. He's sitting here with me today in my office, and we're going to be diving into a new episode of our docuseries, Truth About Buying Real Estate in the Dominican Republic. So many of you have been asking me, and that's why we're going to dive into this topic here today, is what are the costs associated with buying or selling real estate in the Dominican Republic? Obviously, we all know there's a cost of buying or selling, which is the property value. There's the straightforward costs that you understand you have. However, what are the costs that come along with buying that real estate? So today what we're going to do is we're going to dive into a few of those critical items that you need to plan for in your budgeting of buying real estate here in the Dominican Republic. So we have none other than Vladimir Alonzo with us. He's going to be giving us the legal and professional insight on those items. Okay, Vladimir, if you want to say hello really quick before we get started, feel free.
Hey, hello everyone. Kash, thank you very much once again for having me in your channel.
Always a pleasure.
And it's always a pleasure, and I always have a lot of fun participating here in this docu-series. For those of you who are new to the channel and to the docu-series, like Kash was explaining, we have a docu-series in which we have been making videos about different topics related to purchasing property in the Dominican Republic. So there's a playlist here in the channel, and you can go and watch that docu-series in which we have already talked about the initial stages of the process, the closing, the due diligence and all that. So we have already made all those videos, and they contain a lot of useful information for all of you who are thinking and willing to come here and invest in the Dominican Republic. And like Kash says, today we bring you a very interesting topic, because every time that you are going to make an investment, not only in real estate, but you want in any other investment, you want to know what are going to be your total cost. Like, for example, okay, I want to invest in a let's say $300,000 condo in PuntaCana, in Las Terrenas, or in Santo Domingo. But other than that, what else do I have to spend? So this is what we're going to be talking for you to help you give you the most possible accurate information in order that you can do your planning and knowing in advance everything, and I mean everything, that you will have to spend to invest in paradise.
Perfect, thank you for that, Vladimir. I appreciate it. So as he was alluding to, we have our playlist on the channel. So obviously you're on the channel, click playlist. You'll see the Truth About Purchasing Real Estate in the Dominican Republic docu-series, and on there you're going to see all those critical topics. I highly suggest you do not, and again I repeat, you do not buy real estate in the Dominican Republic without watching this docu-series, without contacting myself. I will get you in contact with Vladimir, but that docu-series is going to prep you beautifully. We have a few more episodes left that we're going to be getting done. So for right now, let's enjoy this one, and we're going to be talking about the costs associated with buying real estate here in the Dominican Republic. All right, guys, so let's get started. There are 4 critical topics that we're going to touch here today. So first one is, obviously you understand that you have to buy the real estate, okay? You understand there's a cost associated with that, and that's straightforward. So the next part is making sure you hire a professional, qualified attorney to get the job done. Never, and I mean never, ever buy real estate in the Dominican Republic without a qualified attorney guiding you. So your number one cost that we want to talk about is the legal fees. I'll let Vladimir elaborate a little bit on legal fees and what people can expect and what that looks like and how it feels.
All right. Well, this first question, the legal fees, as you know, will always, and I said this in the video that we were talking about whether you should buy with a corporation or not. And like I said before, always the legal fees are going to depend on what's the attorney or the law firm that is representing you. Most of the expenses, fees, or taxes that you pay as a result of making an investment in real estate in the DR are things that are flat percentages, but as always, the legal fees is not something that I could tell you, let's say for a fact, this is what it's going to cost you. On average, you have to spend something between 1 to 2% of the purchase price, depending on the law firm that you hire, 1.5% in this case is the rate of our firm to represent the clients. So let's say, for example, that you are going to buy a property for a value of $200,000, and you say, okay, what are the legal fees and the closing expenses related to that if I hire Vladimir or Luz Marisa to represent me in this purchase? Then it's 1.5%, which means that you will be paying $3,000, but that includes all the expenses and closing fees.
So let me dive into that for you, because it's really important what he's saying right here. Many of my clients, North American specifically, as you know, we're the foremost brokers guiding North Americans buying real estate in the Dominican Republic. So a lot of them ask me this question. Typically, what happens, Vladimir, is people will jump out of their seat and say, what the heck, 1.5%, 1%. Let me explain something. This is important because I've done a lot of analysis on it myself. As you know, I'm also an investor. So there's a big difference. It's not accurate to compare the legal fees to Canada or US, because what this encompasses, it's an all-inclusive price. Very often in North America, Florida, for example, you have to hire a title insurance company. You have to get pay other professionals and other resources on top of the legal fees. So what this is all encompassed. They check the title, they do all the due diligence, they pull everything related to any liens, taxes, all that stuff is encompassed in this. There's no additional costs or fees associated with it. So when you balance it all out, depending on what state or country you're from, it becomes similar to what you were paying. Yes, it is a little bit more, but that is the system here in the Dominican Republic, and that is how legal fees are priced on real estate transactions. So don't get all up in arms about that. Those fees are how it functions here, but remember, key thing is all inclusive, covers everything.
Exactly, it's a one-time fee for the whole representation from the beginning of your purchase until the very end that you have the certificate of title in your hands. Like Kash says, it's not comparable because most of the clients understand it, and some will say, hey, but I paid $1,000, $1,500 for a $500,000 deal in New York. Well, but the thing is that here, for example, most of the things related to the process, including, for instance, the notary fee that certifies everything, its impact by law, not because we want the lawyers, but by law, are related to the purchase price or the amounts that are in the contract.
Another key thing is when you're sitting in North America, you're not getting a conflict certificate. As you guys know, if you're a viewer of our channel, the next episode is actually going to be on conflict, which is going to be important. But conflict is a tax-free certificate that's assigned to that property. That takes time and effort to achieve as well. Their legal fees includes the retrieval of that conflict certificate, tying it to the property, and that comes months after. So the legal fees don't stop when you get your keys and you give the money. The legal fees continue well after.
Yeah, correct. So it's it's perfectly explained. So it's a one-time fee that you pay to do the preliminary sales agreement, promise of sale, to perform the due diligence, to make the final deed of sale, to transfer the property certificate of title both in the tax authority's office, whether you have Confutur or not. We're going to talk about that in the next video, and also to get the new certificate of title at your name. You might be wondering, like, hey, but what about if I make a $3 million deal? Then 1.5% of that is $45,000, so that would be ridiculously expensive. Of course, if you make a $200,000 deal, you pay 1.5%, which is the average. That's $3,000 for the whole transaction. But if you are into a larger transaction, the percentage might go way lower, or as it happens in most of your countries, we could also come to an agreement per hour. But like I say, I could talk about our case as a firm because we wanted to talk about this first topic just for you as a reference, because the legal fees that you pay in this or any other investment you make are only gonna depend on who is the law firm that you hire. But of course, like I said, I made a joke in one of the
initial
videos that we made talking about what would it cost to form an LLC in the DR, and I said back then something that I always joke with the clients and saying that if you select your wine or any kind of alcohol that you drink just because it's cheaper, then the next day you should not complain because of the headache. And that happens the same with the lawyers as well. So make sure, since most of you are investing a lot of money and putting a lot of faith into this market that simply doesn't stop growing. It's growing, and a lot of opportunities keep coming and coming. And since you are, most of you are doing a big effort to invest some of your savings or your lifetime savings, you have to make sure that you put those in the hands of qualified professionals.
So yeah, Vladimir, I know he states it as a joke, and it is kind of a joke, but it's more so, it's a bigger joke when people believe that they're going to try to save on the legal fees by going with, let's say, for example, I'm all about small business and one-man operations and stuff like that. What I've seen in my experience throughout these years is the clients that, or the people that have those horror stories on Facebook are the same people that are utilizing a brother-in-law, a cousin, a sister-in-law, their neighbor as their legal representation to buy property. And those are the ones that flood these ridiculous Facebook pages saying, don't buy in the DR, you get scammed. No, it's not the DR that's the issue, it's the process that you're employing to hire an attorney or use a broker for, and trying to save money on that end. That part of it, you should not skim. So whether you utilize Guzman and Reaser or not, what's important is that you really understand that you want strength and you want stability in the law firm that you're using. And don't make that decision based on price. Yeah, we're talking 1 to 2%. Guys, if you start to get someone that's charging you half a percentage point, please do your due diligence on the law firm and make sure you're making the right decision before going forward with them. Okay, so that's on the topic of legal fees. We'll dive into the next topic, unless you want to add a point on the legal fees. Or we're pretty much good with that.
It's fine.
It's pretty self-explanatory. The wine analogy says it all.
Yeah.
Topic number 2 here. Another cost that you're going to have when you are doing a closing here in the DR is transfer tax, land transfer tax.
Yeah.
Go ahead, talk on 2 elements for me there. Reference confiture, how a land transfer tax applies or doesn't, and then also the amount associated with this.
Okay, we have talked a lot about confiture. You have talked a lot about confiture in previous video, and actually the next video of the docu-series, we're going to talk about the effects that confiture has on this kind of expenses and taxes. But in this video or in these expenses, let's imagine that confiture does not exist. In order that you have a rough idea and that you are going to invest in a property that does not have confiture.
Meaning no tax
advantage. And you have no advantage. What would you have to pay according to the regulations? Because in the DR, like in most countries, in order for you to transfer a property certificate of title at your name, you have to pay a transfer tax, which according to our regulations in the Dominican Republic is 3% of the purchase price. So these are the 2 most important, and in most cases the 2 only expenses that you have in the Dominican Republic to acquire a property: transfer tax and legal fees. So let's do the math, because I want you guys to be able to do this on your own in order that you can make your planning at the moment that you decide you're going to make your investment. Let's go back to the same example. You're going to invest $200,000 in a condo. What are going to be my total cost for making this investment? If I select Vladimir and Guzman Reza, if I buy a property that doesn't have confiture or any other tax advantage, what are going to be my total cost? Then it's very simple, because in an apartment or a resale or pre-construction or any investment in which you don't have to go much farther and perform a deeper due diligence, you just have to spend these 2 things: transfer tax, which is 3% of the purchase price, and the legal fees, which in our case is 1.5% of the purchase price. So total 4.5% of the purchase price. If you are going to make an investment of $200,000, you have to know that this plus 4.5%, which is $9,000, I believe in total. Yes, $9,000 is everything you will spend. So the total cost of your investment will be $209,000. In most of the cases, this is everything that you are going to spend. But in some particular cases that we're also going to talk about in this video, there might be some additional expenses if we are required to go a little bit deeper.
We're going to talk about that in point number 4 here. So just to recap that, the land transfer tax is how much?
3% of the purchase price.
3% of the purchase price. So
Government tax.
It's a government tax, yeah. So there's no getting away from that. There's no changing that. That is a land transfer tax that applies to any exchange of real estate here in the Dominican Republic. Similar to many countries, no different on that level. However, the one difference is if you have confiture, that's one of those advantages, zero land transfer tax. However, I'm not going to go too deep. I haven't many of my videos, but I'm going to save that for our next episode where Vladimir's going to talk in further detail related to that. But I have to say, Comptour also gives you 15 years, 12 to 15 years, no property taxes.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
And I have to say that you have to pay this 3% transfer tax regardless of if you purchase at the name of an LLC or at your personal name. It doesn't change anything. Like if the project does not have Confutur or any other tax advantage, there's no way to reduce it. It's simply by law. It's 3% of the purchase price that you have to pay whether you buy your personal name with a corporation.
Got it.
3% of the purchase price transfer tax, period.
Period. Got it. So again, that is that's the second part of this. Second part of the 4 major points that we're going to talk here related to the costs. So now we go from transfer tax, which is 3%, or if you have Confiture, to property tax. Let's dive into property tax. 2 elements there. Well, actually, let's say 3 elements. One is, and I kind of alluded to it, is the property tax if it's Confiture or not. The other thing I would love for you to touch on is if you own it, if it's a personal purchase or if it is a corporate purchase.
Good. That's a very good question because even though we're focusing on telling you what are the total costs of buying a property, you also need to know
Budget for the future.
what is the cost to maintain
Yes.
a property and pay for it as you own it. This is a very important topic. First, to buy it, we already say it. On average, we're gonna spend 4.5% of whatever the purchase price is. But what about the taxes for owning the property towards the future? Because most of you currently are investing in the Dominican. In the past, the Dominican Republic was mostly people who were in a situation that they wanted to retire, they wanted to own a home in the Caribbean, and we still have a lot of people like those, but currently the majority of the market is people who are still working, who are investing, and want to have an income at their investment and at the same time a home in the Caribbean that they can visit. But as an investor, you would have to know what would be your expenses to maintain the property, and if you are still one of those, who are a lot, that are retiring in the Dominican Republic, you have to know what would it cost to maintain, because okay, my pension is this amount. If I buy this property, will I be able to afford it with the income that I have with my pension or something? So here, unlike with the transfer taxes, there is a difference on what you will be paying in property tax depending on if you buy at the name of a corporation or if you buy the property at your name.
Okay.
So this is how it works. If you buy a property at your personal name that doesn't have Confutur, the amount of the taxes will be 1% of the amount above $160,000. So if you buy, let's say, a property for $260,000 and you have an exemption until 160, then you will be paying 1% on the amount above that, which means you are going to be paying 1% of 100,000, which is $1,000 a year.
I've seen
That's not a lot.
clients be blown away by the property tax on that level. How affordable it is.
Well, and it is how it is, because sometimes, as you see, the legal fees, the expenses, and some other stuff are very different than what they are in your country because of multiple factors. But also the taxes here are way lower. This is much lower than what most of North Americans will pay for the property tax.
100%.
So it is simply how it is. Some things here are
When
more
are taxes due?
expensive.
When are property taxes due typically?
Sorry?
When are property taxes paid here in the Dominican Republic? Is there a certain month? Is it paid monthly? Is it yearly?
Look, in principle, you are going back to that example. If you have a property of 260, you have an exemption of 160, and you pay 1,000. You, in principle, are supposed to make that payment twice a year, like not twice, but you split it. Let's say March and September, but we don't like to do it twice. We recommend the clients to just do it once a year,
And what
and
month?
you forget it. Do it in March.
I see.
Because
so you have the option to break that up into 2 if you want.
You
But
have-
you would say,
Yeah, if you pay it once a year, I think it's better for planning, and it's better because we do that for most
I was
of the
going to ask, can
clients.
you do that for them
we,
too?
we do it, and we have hundreds of clients.
Okay.
So you can imagine what
Carefree, trouble-free.
imagine what
Yeah,
would it
good.
be to remind the hundreds of clients will have to pay their property tax
Totally.
twice a year. So it's better for them and for us, for everyone, to just pay it once a year and forget about it. Something I want to tell you is to say, okay, you have an exemption over to 160,000. So what if I buy a property of 150,000? Then you have an exemption. You don't have to pay anything.
Yes.
Properties of 160,000 or less do not pay taxes in the Dominican Republic.
Correct.
Assuming that you only own that property, because if you own another one, let's say of another 150, then you have to do the sum, and you have real estate for a combined value of 300,000. In this case, you do the same exercise, 300,000 minus 160, you have 140,000 that is taxable, and you have to pay for that 1%.
So I'm assuming you guys have the same question I do. I'm going to need a little bit of clarification on that. So if I own, like many of my clients now are investing throughout the Dominican Republic, as you know, I got the trifecta, I explained the two Los Terrenas, San Domingo, and PuntaCana / CapCana. So if I have a client that owns a property for 150,000 in Los Terrenas, another property in San Domingo for 150,000, and then another one for 150,000, based on your explanation, I would say there's no property tax on it.
No, there is property tax. There is. Like, you only have an exemption to 160,000, assuming that you have only one property that is below that amount. But if you have three property of 150, it's not that the three will be no tax, because for the government eyes, you would have 450,000 total value in property. So 450,000 minus 160, that will be 290. You pay 1% of 1% of 290,000. That's roughly $3,000. And the reason the government does that is because it's very simple. If you only own one property of 150,000, that's probably your home. And you have, but if you have three, most likely you're an investor, someone that can afford to pay those taxes. But if you only own one property, you're either someone that is working that doesn't have a lot of money, or you're either retired, and this is why the Dominican's regulations do it that way. But if you own several property, the fact that they are below, you do have to pay your.
So that's a big delineation, even to my understanding. And this is that's why this docu-series is so important.
Yeah. But something else I need to say is that we have a law that is way more fair than in the United States, because some of you might say, well, why 160,000? Here our law is very fair, because, for example, in the past, like 3-4 years ago, the exemption was only roughly to 135,000. But every year, the government raises the amount of the exemption with a formula that they have based on the inflation and many other factors. So as of right now, it's roughly 165,000, but then this year is probably going to be 180,000, and it is adjusted every year. So our regulations
due to inflation.
Are very fair in that aspect.
So, as I was saying, the docu-series, that's why these are really important, because to be honest, I wasn't of that understanding. I thought it was per property. However, the exemption is per person.
Per person, yeah.
Okay, so that's a big thing, and that's why, like I'm saying, I even did not understand that. I thought it was per property. So, it's a really, really important thing to understand. This is an exemption per person. So, you personally, if you're going to buy real estate here in the Dominican Republic, will have an exemption up to 160,000. Let me ask you a question. Husband and wife, they want to buy two properties. Can the husband buy one and the wife buy the other?
Fantastic question. And that's one of the main things that we take into consideration when we're going to design a taxation strategy for our clients. Because here, when you get the property at your name and at your wife's name, it's at the name of both, even if only one signs, because you're married. So it's part of the
asset.
No, it's.
So do you have a total of 320,000 then?
No. So this is how it works. Let's say you and Carissa buy a property, and only you sign, which is totally possible. It still belongs to both. But even if it belongs to both in the title, there in the RNC number, which is like your tax ID, will only be at the name of one. In this case, you were the one that signed.
Okay.
If in your second purchase you do it the other way, that Carissa is the one that signs, and you just got the co-ownership as a result of being her husband, then the RNC will be a new one at her name. So then they are not considered properties that are part of the ownership of only one person. So you could very well, if you are a couple, do this strategy Again, this is one of multiple things that we take into consideration because, as always, when you come to us, we are going to evaluate your particular case and always be the smartest possible.
Smartest possible legal way to save
to say,
money.
hey, this is how you should do it. If you do like this, you pay this.
So you
So
guys
these are the
also,
things that,
you also get involved in tax planning. You assist with the tax planning.
of course, that's
amazing.
part of our work.
That's part of that 1%. You start to assist and guide. Yes.
Yeah. I'm not encourage you or someone else to avoid taxes.
Of course.
It is just how it is. The DGI puts one RNC to the owner, the principal owner, and another one to the principal owner, whether that person are married or not. Or if you have a son or someone that you would like to put one of the properties at their name or something, then it's not illegal. I'm not telling you to avoid taxes. It's just a matter for you to design a strategy for you to get the most possible out of your investment and spend the less possible, like every smart investor
Within
will
the
do.
legal limits of the law.
Of course.
Yeah,
And as for the LLC, and this is probably the only disadvantage of buying with an LLC is that if you buy with a property that doesn't have confutura and you don't have the exemption, other than paying the 3%, you pay the taxes. Property taxes are 1% on the amount of the total value of the property without the exemption.
Without the exemption.
So if you bought a property for 150,000, you pay 1% of that. If you bought a property for 300,000, you pay 1% of that. You get 1% of whatever the value is if you buy it at the name of the corporation.
Now, doesn't the corporation have the ability to assume expenses against the income that it makes? What would be the advantage to offset that of a corporation?
Well, we do have a video in the channel in which we have talked about the advantages of purchasing with a corporation. Go watch it. It's a very, very interesting video which encourage a lot of you to contact me who already made the investment through Kash, and some of you contacted me to say, hey, can I still
do this?
Do it? And some of you did it, and
Great.
we are in the process. Of course, I'm not going to mention your names because of a matter of confidentiality. But what I would do is suggest our viewers to go and watch that video in order to see what are those advantages.
Perfect.
But here, the only disadvantages, again, in the particular case that you are buying with a corporation, and that you're not buying with confutura, is that you are going to pay more property tax. But some people still do it because of all the advantages that they have, which again you can find in the videos that we have here in the playlist.
But it's a very defined amount. It's 160 times 1%, so you're going to pay 1,600 more by having a corporation.
Exactly.
It's not a variable
But
number.
still, again, for the reasons that I explained in that other video that we have,
The
this was the last one
advantages
some people will still do it.
The advantages are
Whether there is confutura or not, something like
to
60.
encourage you to go back and watch that. We're not going to go too deep on it. Go
Yeah.
watch that because we answered all of those questions and you dove really deep on that.
Yeah.
Okay, so in the essence of time, we're going to keep pushing forward and we're going to dive into point number 4 that's related to the buying and selling of real estate, some of the costs associated with that, above and beyond buying the property. We're going to talk a little bit about the due diligence. Okay. How does the cost associated to the due diligence, whether you're buying a single family home, or buying a condo, or buying land, or buying a business, how does that due diligence change on your end? And does that affect the costs associated with buying or selling real estate in the DR?
Fantastic question. I was saying that in most of the cases, when you're going to buy a condo, a resale, or pre-construction, in most cases, your total cost were going to be 4.5% of the purchase price between the legal fees and
Totally.
and the 3%. But not every transaction here is the same. Some of you want to buy a villa. Some of you want to buy land to probably become investors and developers in the DR. So the scope of work and the due diligence that you perform will always depend on the kind of purchase that you are making, and as a result, in those particular cases, there might be some additional expenses. Because if, for example, you're buying a land, let's say a 5,000 square meter lot in which you are going to develop a project or build the house of your dreams or whatever, we will probably suggest you to hire a surveyor in order that surveyor goes and verifies that the survey and the boundaries of the property are correct, in order that we know for a fact
They
that
will
in the
mark it,
future,
they'll put the posts in, you'll know exactly what your land
in the
is.
future, you're not going to have any kind of dispute or litigation
Correct.
with your neighbor because one is occupying part of the land of the
Correct.
other. So if you're buying land or a property that is still doesn't have a Slinde yet, or a property that simply have some neighbors, and you want to make sure that the title that is being presented to you is matches with the occupation, then probably sending a surveyor for a
Yes.
few $100.
You will facilitate that process?
Of course, we have a surveyor that, because since we are, this is a process that we do hundreds of times.
Thousands of times throughout the country. though.
Yeah, exactly. So this is, you need to have a network of these professionals in of other areas that we need to assist, because this is not something that a lawyer will be able to do, because it's a very technical thing. And a surveyor, it doesn't cost a lot. Of course, it depends on the size of the land.
Of course.
If you're buying a small lot, 1,000-2,000 square meter, if it's flat land that doesn't have to be cleaned or something, a surveyor will go and verify
What do
that
you mean by
everything is
clean? If you're
correct.
buying something up in the hills, in the lomas or something, and you got bush and forest, there might be a requirement to clean it so the surveyor can even get it.
Exactly.
So that could be additional cost.
Exactly. And that's something that you could negotiate, of course, with the seller.
Or we can help you with that. Our team has access to different surveyors. Of course, Vladimir does as well. So we'll be able to guide you. But the key thing is that could be an additional cost based on.
Exactly.
So what about business? If you're looking to buy a business,
Well, that depends, because, for example, if you're buying a business, means that you are buying a corporation, which in some cases might include real estate or not.
yes, correct. Good point. Good point.
So if it includes real estate, and if it's, let's say, land or something, we could use for this same example of using a surveyor, etc. But buying a business from a due diligence perspective, legally, is a little bit different than buying a property, because when you buy a property, you focus on performing due diligence on the property. But when you're buying a business, you have to go a little bit deeper, and there are some other documentation that you will need, mostly to verify that they are up to date in their taxes, and that you're basically
What they're
making a
representing as
purchase.
revenue is
But
accurate.
exactly. But these do not include additional expenses. This will be our legal fees will
Doesn't
be
change it.
the exact same for when buying a property, and even though the scope of work might be a little bit higher, we will include that in our fees. So I don't think that this will be something that
So you will handle that as
additional
well.
expense. Exactly.
And for the most part, I would say,
Mhm.
I think it's fair to assume, generally stating, it would remain the same. But if you're buying a $20 million corporation, then that might change a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's very different. Those are
A small bar,
We
like
have
you
been
for sale
in
Las Vegas,
our
yeah.
firm, mostly in our Santo Domingo office here, involved in very large transactions
Of
like
course,
those, and
the largest in the country, yeah.
and the scope of work is ridiculous. It's
Yes.
but when you have a responsibility to make transactions of that size, of course, those investors and those large clients that we represent would expect nothing else than that, because they're investing a lot of money and trusting you to do it.
Exactly.
Something else I want to mention about the possible additional expenses, because we have, again, the majority of you coming to invest in a land, in a villa, in a apartment, in a condo in pre-construction, but some of you are coming here with the intentions to become developers, like
Buy land, to a small
buy
part.
land, etc. So in those cases, for example, other than verifying the land,
Mhm.
usually some developers want to go a little bit deeper in the due diligence, and they want to know, for example, hey, how many rooms I can do here, how many apartments I can do here, how is the density in this area, because like in everywhere in the world, in the DR, you have regulations that you have to follow to build in a certain amount of rooms or apartments that you can build depending on the amount of square meters that you have in your land and the location of the land. And in those particular cases, this is also something that a lawyer cannot do. Mostly it's professionals of the constructions, like architect, engineers, and we have a few that we could also recommend in those particular cases, because sometimes this is part of the due diligence, because
Correct.
if you're going to buy an apartment, what do you want to see? Title clean, that everything is, all the bills are paid, etc. But if you are buying land to
Mhm.
develop, you have to do your math. How many rooms I can build?
You
If
know
I
what
sell
I'd
it
like
at
to
this,
do? I'm gonna pause you. There's a reason I'm pausing it, because I just came up with another topic that we're gonna add into this docuseries, is I want to be a developer.
okay.
We're gonna explain in one of these series exactly the process that people need to go through if they want to become a developer, the permits required, and how we can assist them in that process. So don't give it all away right now. We're going to keep you looped in for the episode where we're going to talk about you wanting to be a developer, because I get that all the time.
So
hey, Kash, I want to go.
We extended the docu-series right here while we record one of the
right here. No, because I think
it's a very interesting.
great one.
It's a great video, and we're gonna prepare for it in order to bring you another video in the future about this topic.
It's an amazing one. Yes.
Yeah, but in the meantime, all we could tell you about the due diligence is that this is what you would require to do your math. It's due diligence not from the legal perspective or to make sure that the survey is correct, but for you to do your math and see if it is worth it. Okay, if I buy this 5,000 meters, how many rooms I can build, how much I can sell it for, what will be my income, because we all invest to make money.
Yeah, we would obviously be able to give you market value, what we believe you would be able to resell the unit for, cost-wise, permit-wise, all that stuff. We're going to save that one for this very, very important docu-series. There's so many of you that would love to do the developing side, but it's if you don't do it right, it could be a mess, and your dream could turn into a nightmare very, very quick.
Yes.
So this will be a good one.
But as of right now, at least maybe here in Santo Domingo, or we have done a few bankruptcy or restructuring procedures for some big companies. Some of them were not clients of us, and then became clients of us to follow that process. But at least in Las Terrenas, from all the developers, and this is how important it is for you to have an accurate advice from your broker and from the legal part, because I can assure you that in my 7 years of experience in Las Terrenas only, from all the developers that we have represented and that we have guide through this process, because just like we are lawyers of many of you that are buying apartments from developers, but we are also lawyers of some developers, and we guide them through this process of developing their projects. And as of right now, in over 1,000 transactions that I have been involved in my 7 years in Las Terrenas, so far I have not had to do the first procedure of bankruptcy, because all of our developers and all of our clients have been successful.
Perfect.
I'm not saying it's not going to happen in the future, because for some aspects that we do not control probably in the future, it will happen. But
as of right now, in the DR, and specifically in Las Terrenas, which is where I focus my right now, I work in the Las Terrenas office, as most of you know. And as long as you have the proper legal advice, the proper advice from your broker, you do your due diligence well, you do your your numbers well, you are not gonna go bankrupt, because as of right now, I have not had my first experience. Probably in the future, I hope I don't, because what I want you all is to be successful, to keep coming investing here, to come here and see how bright the future looks in Las Terrenas. For this country.
Like many of you, and like you, Kash, in particular, are doing, because Kash came here at the right time. He made some very wise investment. I'm not going to talk about the part for a matter of confidentiality about his income or about how good he has been doing. But he came here at the right time. He believed in the country. He believed in Las Terrenas, which was the first place in which he started investing. And I'm pretty sure that you can tell to your clients that you have done, that you don't regret the decisions like you made, like all of the hundreds of clients that we have that out there that can say the same thing. So we want you all, you that are thinking, I want to invest, I'm hesitating, this might be the year, contact Kash, pull the trigger, we're here to assist, we're here to help. And even if you are just thinking of it and it's something that you might be doing in the future, contact us with no commitment. You know what? We're going to give you a free consultation. We're going to answer all your questions in details in case that there's something that we didn't talk about in this video or in the previous video of the docu-series.
So one thing he said pull the trigger. I want to define what that means, because we all know stereotypically what that means, pull the trigger, buy property. I'm not even saying that. But I'm saying make 2024 the year where you pull the trigger and contact me. If you've been watching my videos and wanting to reach out to me, guys, I put my WhatsApp number on there. It's my direct number, 15195671785. That's my direct number. Pull the trigger, as in contact me and ask those questions, learn more, and get yourself prepped to get down here, see the properties, whether you're going to be in the Las Terrenas, and that's why I've expanded, because you got Las Terrenas, you got San Domingo, the PUNTA area, which is really cool, catered to North Americans. Then you got PuntaCana, CapCana, touristic monsters, okay? And then you got Las Terrenas, one of the most beautiful places on earth. that is booming. So whatever it is that floats your boat, you need to learn about the Dominican Republic. You need to learn about buying real estate in the Dominican Republic. And that's what this channel is about. That's what I'm about. Yes, the Dominican Republic has been very good to me, but I believe it has been good to all of my clients that have gone through us, okay, and have done things the right way and got the right legal representation, the right broker, the right properties, the right investments, and all of those things have turned out very well for everyone. Country's on the up and up. It's an emerging economy, an emerging market, emerging middle class that is so key to a country growing and prospering in the future years. As you can see, many other spots in the world are not doing that. So on that note, we've kind of covered more than we expected to cover in this episode of the docuseries. Keep in mind, another expense you might have is if you're buying a villa or a condo, a resale, for example, you might want to do some renovations. If you're buying a brand new place, you might want to do some furnishing. Carissa, my wife, who you've met in some videos, is really focused on the furnishing element of things. So if you're interested in reaching out to her and getting some input from her or some guidance, please feel free to send me a WhatsApp. I'll connect you directly with her. And then on the renovation end, we've developed some really strong contacts, some strong builders on all different levels, and we're able to facilitate and guide you in that process and manage that process for you if need be. Okay? So I think as I cap that off, that really is all of the expenses that you could potentially have or not have.
I
think that answers it all.
I think that answers it all. In case it didn't, and you guys have some specific questions or things that we would like to
100%.
compare, how it works here in our contract, like Kash said, contact him to his WhatsApp. He will create a group chat with all of us.
Exactly.
And then we are gonna dive into all the questions that you might have to, regardless of how many you have, with no commitment.
Of course.
All of you, even if the thousands of people that will most likely watch this video. Thank you very much for coming once again. Thank you
Always a
all
pleasure.
for watching. And I guess we will see you in the next one.
Yeah, that's it, guys. So I really appreciate your time. Remember, like, subscribe, and share. Get the word out about this. We've got, I believe, 4, now 5 more episodes left. So keep your eyes open for those. Those are going to be coming in due time. And remember, guys, life is short. Make 2024 the year that you can say you love where you live. We're here to guide you and help you in that process. All right, guys. Thanks so much. And Vladimir, thanks again.
Thank you.
All right. Take care, guys.